If you've followed my channel over the last few months, then you've probably seen several videos made about current Raptors bench pieces that went undrafted and then developed into incredibly promising contributors to the current defending champions. Masai Ujiri is a wizard when it comes to scouting, and the coaching staff seems to be equally as magical when it comes to player development, and because of this, they've proven to be able to find capable contributors for their rotation seemingly out of thin air. If any of you watched the most recent Bucks vs Raptors matchup on national TV, you probably saw yet another relatively unknown player shooting the lights out and giving them good minutes off the bench, which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be discussing Matt Thomas, who very well might be one of the best shooters on the planet, and in this video we'll be discussing what makes that statement true, what he went through on his journey to this point, and how he got to where he is today. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The legend of Matt Thomas began at a very young age in the town of Onalaska, Wisconsin, which is where he grew up. It's a small town with about 18,000 residents, and if there's one thing the people love there, it's the local sports scene. Word first started to get around about Thomas all the way back in the 6th grade, when he attended a fundraiser and competed in the free throw competition at it, where he easily took home the victory by knocking down 99 of his 100 attempts. Then, not too long after that, he was at the local AAU tryouts, and still in elementary school, he and the others were put through an NBA shooting drill, where NBA players are expected to make 15 total three-pointers from 5 different spots on the floor in a minute and a half. Matt finished this drill in 53 seconds. Matt came from an athletic family where his mom was actually a star basketball player in her high school days as well, and she even put up 48 points once in a game. She provided whatever she could for Matt growing up to pursue the game of basketball, and even had some cement laid in their backyard to make a mini court for him to practice shooting on. One of the family's most memorable moments was in one of Matt's high school games, where he was absolutely scorching hot from the opening tip, and in the middle of the third quarter, Matt was quickly approaching his mom's record of 48 points. His mom jokingly yelled out to the coach to sub him out when he hit 47, but all he did was laugh along with her, and when Matt knocked down his 6th three of the game, he sealed the deal and passed her with 50 points. That story paints a pretty good picture of the kind of player that Matt was back then and still is today, because he's always been such a naturally gifted shooter of the basketball. Through his high school career, he accomplished a ton, and during his junior season, he started to become a legitimate prospect on the recruiting trail. He averaged about 21 points per game that season and led his team to the Wisconsin State Championship. Then, during his senior season, he increased that scoring average to 28 points per game, but he could only get his team to the state semifinals this time. After this much production, he finished his high school career as a 4-star recruit, ranked in the top 60 of both ESPN and Rivals recruiting rankings. He had several big-time college programs interested in him, but he ultimately committed to play for Iowa State in the Big 12. The transition to the college game was a difficult one for Matt, and even though he was given the starting job immediately as a freshman, after just 15 games he was beaten out for the job and became a bench player. His shot wasn't falling as well as he knows it could have through his first 2 seasons, his production was low, and his minutes were dwindling because of his struggles on defense. So in the summer between his sophomore and junior seasons, in the words of his roommate at the time, Naz Long, who also happened to make it to the NBA, he took it upon himself every day in the gym to get better. That summer, he spent more time in the weight room than ever before, and he sought out the strength coach to help him put together a regimen of specific drills to improve his lateral quickness. The hard work paid off, he regained his spot in the starting lineup in his junior season, and his defense went from borderline liability status to getting to the point where the coach trusted him to guard the opposing team's best players. He was oozing with confidence that season, and his production saw a pretty good spike as well, as he doubled his previous scoring numbers, putting up about 11 per game, and he was making his threes at a 43% clip. His senior season was when all of his hard work culminated into the best year of his college career, and where he averaged 12 points and 4 rebounds per game, which doesn't seem that crazy on paper, but he did also shoot a whopping 45% from 3, establishing himself as one of the best shooters in the country that year, and it was that skill that he was hoping would get him a chance in the NBA. After graduating that year, he put his name into the 2017 NBA draft, knowing he wasn't anywhere close to a top prospect, but at the very least, he was hoping he could hear his name called in the second round. In the words of his coach at Iowa State, Steve Prohm, regarding the kind of role he would excel at in the NBA, he said, "You look at guys like Steve Kerr or John Paxson. Why can't Matt Thomas be that at some point? We've seen guys like that and plenty of others, including Kyle Korver and JJ Redick, make long careers for themselves in the league in that kind of role, and with Thomas's vast improvement on the defensive end, there's no reason he couldn't also excel." In theory, this seems reasonable, but NBA teams disagreed, and on draft night, his name was not called. Sure, he was disappointed, but all hope was not lost, as the Los Angeles Lakers came calling and invited him to play for their summer league team, so that's exactly what he did. As an undrafted guy, he wasn't necessarily featured heavily with the team, and higher profile guys like Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma often stole the show throughout the summer league for the Lakers, so once again, early on, Thomas struggled to make an impact. However, as the summer league went on, he got more and more comfortable, and caught fire at the perfect time. Starting in the summer league playoff quarterfinals, all the way through the championship game, that the Lakers won by the way, Thomas averaged 20 points, and most importantly, of the 16 threes he took in those games, he made 14 of them, being a ridiculous 88% from deep. This certainly turned some heads, but the road to carving out a spot in the league was still pretty far away, so he opted to go the overseas route and signed to play with a team called Obradoro in Spain. As someone that grew up in a small town and never had the wealth to travel, he was looking forward to seeing some sights and experiencing a new culture. He played one season with this team before getting signed by an even better Spanish league team, Valencia, and it was here that he really started to play to his full potential. What I'm about to say is going to sound completely crazy and honestly impossible, but I assure you everything in my research confirmed it to be the truth. Matt's role as a three-point specialist was turned up to the extreme here, and on about 5 attempts per game, he shot 49% from 3 with that team. But while that number is already highly impressive, that's not the crazy thing I'm about to say. When teams left him open, Matt Thomas, and I promise I'm not lying, shot 99% on open catch-and-shoot attempts. Think about that for a second. If you left him open and his teammates swung him the ball, 1 out of every 100 shot attempts would be a miss, and the other 99 were made with ease. This earned him the nickname Mr. 99%, which has stuck with him to this day. This all leads us up to the current season, and after a highly successful 2 years overseas and enjoying all of the new culture he could, he wanted to return home and give himself another shot at the NBA. After hearing about the kind of shooting numbers he was putting up, there was definitely interest, and ultimately, he agreed to a 3-year minimum deal with the Raptors, with the last 2 years on that deal not being fully guaranteed. Once again, as has been a recurring theme in his life, he was starting at the bottom, but was ultimately looking forward to proving people wrong, and he had the confidence and right mindset to do so. When talking about this opportunity, he said, "I understand that people are going to doubt me. I need to prove that I belong, and I can play at this level. I believe in what I can do and what I can bring to the table. It's not a time to sit back and relax, like, hey, I made it. That's not my mindset. I'm going to continue to work every day, continue to get better, and prove that I belong at this level. It's a fun opportunity to start at the bottom again. I get to prove myself again." Now, being on the defending champions that also happened to be extremely deep top to bottom, playing time was always going to be scarce. He's played in 27 games so far this season, and only plays about 10 minutes per game on average, but when his number is called, he's ready, as was seen the other day when they played the Milwaukee Bucks. He's shooting 51% from 3 this season, continuing the momentum he had overseas, and his ability to hold his own on defense could earn him more minutes. If there's one thing Coach Nick Nurse favors, it's a player that works hard on both ends of the floor, and while Thomas is still trying to carve out a consistent role in the league, he does exactly that and could prove to be yet another gem uncovered by the Raptors franchise. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think of Matt Thomas's journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.